Hi everybody, and welcome back to Lost Genre Mother-in-Law Stories. I'm sure you already know what this is about, and if you don't, well, it's on the title. So let's go ahead and get started on that first story. About 3 weeks ago, I visited my mother-in-law, which I try not to do too often. Well, apparently there's been a lot of humming going on over there about my 4-year-old son, because he totally idolizes a female action hero. He carries his sister's doll of this action hero around with him all the time. This ignorant, uneducated, idiot mother-in-law actually came to me holding my son's hand and said in her witch voice, "Tell mommy what we talked about." My son said, "Grandma's gonna buy me toys." Then he ran off as excited as any child would be at the prospect of getting toys. She stood there, hovering over me like a witch on her broom and said, in her witch voice, and yes, all in one breath, which I'm sure you can all relate to, "Oh yes, we had a talk and I told him to forget about that doll." The female action hero, she told him, "I'll take you to the toy store and we can go buy a big, strong man doll with lots of muscles." Can you believe this? I was dumbfounded and speechless. Just when I think a visit is going to go without incident, she never fails to amaze me with the ignorant things she has to say. As it turns out, I later told my dear husband about it, and he ended up having a conversation with her about a week later, telling her not to worry about buying our son male dolls because he, my dear husband, didn't see anything wrong with our son liking the female action hero. Yay for my dear husband! Then my dear husband finds out that they have an actual theory about my 4-year-old son's influences. It goes something like this. They feel that because he has such a strong mother who believes that men and women are equals, and a dominating sister, she's 7, whoa, he's going to need a strong male role model. What the hell? I suppose they don't think my dear husband fits that description? They think that maybe he'd be more like his brother, who they think is the ideal man. Where should I begin? My brother-in-law is an alcoholic, supposed recovering drug addict, father of 2 children from different mothers, has a failed marriage, and lived with his parents up until a couple of months ago. He's 40, and to top things off, he has a criminal record. Not to mention, he can barely read, has never held a job for more than a few months, and has never lived on his own. I guess you get by now that I think he's a loser, and yet they listen to everything he has to say, which 97% of the time is ignorant and chauvinistic, with awe and amazement as if the Lord himself had just spoken. And they want to correct my son? I can't wait to see what ignorant things are said on Thanksgiving, which will be the next time I see them. You might wonder, but OP, why go for Thanksgiving at all? Well, I go because my absence would not make sense to my children who are small and have no clue about what I've been through with their grandma, who they love. There will be other family members there, including some small cousins, and they all want to see my children. I'm cool with that. No, I am not a glutton for punishment. I certainly don't go for her company. I avoid her like the plague and spend time with extended family members who I get along with just fine. But I'm also at the point in my life where I'm beginning to see her as a big joke. There was a time when I felt threatened by her, but I've grown older. I'm 34. I was 24 when I met her. Wiser and stronger, mostly because every time she says something stupid, it not only proves that she's an idiot, but it has helped to open my husband's eyes as well. You see, 10 years ago, my husband would have never said to her what he did about the doll. And just to follow up, since I didn't get into it, in reference to their theory, my husband let them know that he felt that my son will benefit from having such a strong mother, and it will help to make him a strong man who will one day be attracted to a strong woman. So overall, this is all helping me to feel more and more empowered, which is what I need in order to deal with my mother-in-law's asinine behavior. Well, good for you, OP. This is actually good that you can go to these family gatherings that are a little bit toxic because of your mother-in-law, but always come out on top and feeling more empowered. And the best thing is that it helps your husband to truly see his mom for what she is. Not a very bright person, apparently. And it's definitely helping him grow a spine, which is always good to have in a relationship, right? So once again, congratulations. Alright, on that note, let's move on to the next story. My mother-in-law is emotionally dependent on her son in order to provide herself with a source of joy, as she has made her own life so miserable. She's already ruined her own marriage. She parents her husband like an abusive mother of a 3-year-old. Everyone feels sorry for him and admire his ability to put up with her without resorting to murder. No wonder he hasn't retired. As my fabulous husband would say, would you if you had to spend more time with her? She doesn't have a single friend, and the whole family barely tolerates her existence. Everyone is in utter fear of her wrath. She's an emotional bully. She has the most amazing husband, and she constantly criticizes and goes out of her way to disagree with and humiliate him. She is a total control freak. In her desire to control, design every aspect of everyone else's life, she has made everyone reject, ridicule, and hate her. In her desperate attempt to make everything perfect, she's made life a living hell for all who have any contact with her. She never wavered from her unreasonable demands. Everyone had to be in bed by 9 p.m., in church every Sunday, and dressed just so. My husband never had a date until he moved out of his parents' home at 23. The kids had to be straight-A students. Okay, this is a good goal, and one should encourage children to do well, but not insist that this be the case. My darling husband drove himself nuts doing everything her way. He got straight A's from kindergarten through college, every year. Her first son couldn't, wouldn't, and didn't put up with her craziness. He moved to his grandparents before he finished high school. For 3 years of college, dear husband had to come home every weekend, a 3-hour bus ride. He wasn't allowed to move out of the house until he at least had a down payment for a place of his own. At 22, he finished college. He was unemployed for 3 months and moved out just after he turned 23. He always did everything her way. When I was dating him, everything was fine. I knew what she was like and I watched her in action. Then we stated that we wanted to marry. No way. Mother-in-law already had his wife picked out. She made everything so bad, it's unbelievable. What didn't she do? Dear husband gave in and we broke up for almost 1 whole day. She demanded that we just go and talk to the pastor about our intentions. We are 33 and 35. We did, and he told her that she had the problem and we should be married. She said, "Why did we have to involve the pastor in family problems?" She absolutely demanded this. The pastor talked with her several times to no avail. The pastor came to us and said he couldn't believe that she would be so unreasonable. But no matter how negative and horrible she was being, we had to get on with our lives. All the rest of the family tried to reason with her as well. We got engaged, and everyone, with the exception of mother-in-law, was delighted. My fabulous husband fought with his mother and told her to stop acting in her usual manner. There was much yelling, and yes, even crying on his part. She remained like stone. She treated me worse than dirt while I was engaged. She knew my parents were gone, and we wanted to spend Christmas together. No, she insisted that dear husband spend Christmas with her, and I was not welcome, as my sister-in-law didn't spend Christmas with them before she married her oldest son. She stopped at nothing to prevent us from being together. In the end, she decided we had turned the family and the pastor against her. Everyone told her to alter her position. She didn't. My fabulous husband again did everything he could on my behalf. He again tried to talk to her. Again, in the end, he yelled and told her exactly how it was going to be and what was considered acceptable and appropriate conduct. I tried everything to get this woman to like me. I more than bent over backwards, inside out, and upside down. 3 weeks before the wedding, I told her how I was going to be treated and I won't tolerate her abuse ever again. If she couldn't do better at the wedding, then she was to stay home. I didn't want to suddenly change after the wedding, so I told her this before we were married. Again, she was screamed at and told of my terms, how I will be treated, and that I would no longer tolerate her continued abuse. On our wedding day, she didn't say one word to me or to her son. On his wedding day. Can you imagine how much this hurt him? After we were married, she continued with her antics. My husband and I have never fought about anything except his mother. He insisted that I try and try and try. He agreed to my setting of a time limit of 1 year to get her to conduct herself appropriately. Well, my limit has expired. The horrid year was over last November. We went to mother-in-law's house to inform her of the result of her ongoing abuse, mean, selfish behavior. Both of us went. We're having nothing to do with her, ever, until she bends over backwards, inside out, and upside down. Wouldn't you know it? She decides that she will try. I was so close to being rid of her, and now she's trying. So, I must accept her olive branch. I feel it's too little and too late. My husband is supportive of me and knows his mother is the problem, so I guess I'll wait for her to fall short on her trying to go no contact. The good thing is, dear husband totally agrees. That definitely sounds like a nightmare of a woman. The fact that her whole family dislikes her is a big indicator of how horrible she is. On top of that, the fact that the pastor said she was being unreasonable is also a huge indicator of this. The good thing is that OP has a spine. Apparently, the husband does too, and he totally supports her. And that's a team, so that's good. I wouldn't be surprised if mother-in-law's trying didn't last longer than a couple of months, because you can't change that kind of behavior, years and years and years of this behavior in a really short time. So I'm guessing OP is gonna go no contact really soon. And on that note, let's move on to the final story. Unbelievable. Dear husband and I are fully aware that his mom needs help. Professional help, that is. She has a lot of problems. The two most serious are that she refuses to move on from her divorce, which was 20 years ago, and she can't seem to accept that her kids have grown up and moved on. This weekend, my dear husband and I, along with some other relatives, had dinner at mother-in-law's house. I found my dear husband in his brother's old room. He asked me, "Do you notice anything different in this room?" I noticed immediately what he meant. Since his brother moved out, mother-in-law left his bed there, moved my dear husband's old bed in and placed it across the room from his brother's bed. This is the room that brother-in-law and dear husband shared when they were little. Above my dear husband's old bed was a small shrine of pictures of him as a baby small child. Above his brother's bed were pictures of his brother as a baby small child. To those who don't know my mother-in-law, this may seem like no big deal, just pictures, right? Wrong. This started when dear husband's sister moved out. She was the third and final kid to leave. Suddenly, pictures of them went up all over the house, and my mother-in-law became a complete lunatic about pictures. She never had picture frames anywhere in the house before that, except for a few frames in an upstairs hallway. I had some pictures that I took at one of their family events, and she wanted copies of all of them. I told her I would print them out for her because I was trying to be nice. She insisted that she had to do it because she wanted copies to send to dear husband's brother and sister. I even told her I would take care of sending them copies too. Boy, I tried to do something nice. She got really mad at me. She told me that she didn't want me sending them anything because she was putting pictures together for them. Then she accused me of purposely keeping my pictures away from her and playing games with her. That, by the way, was the last time I offered to do something like that for her. She still wants these grown people to be her little babies. She's still constantly trying to do all the things that she did for my dear husband that she did when he was a little boy. Several months ago, she bought him a kitty cereal that he liked. Surprise, he liked it when he was a little kid. she decided his jeans were too small and bought new ones for Christmas. Then, this weekend at dinner, I saw her doing something that really creeped me out. I didn't tell my dear husband about this because I don't think he'd believe me and would just say, "Oh, it's nothing." But we were sitting at the dinner table. She was sitting next to my dear husband, and while he was eating, she started staring at him. And she just kept staring and staring. It looked to me like she was watching him eat. I was just waiting for some crack like, "Do you eat at home?" or some other shot alluding to our cooking-eating habits at home, of which she knows nothing but probably thinks she does. But she never said anything. She just kept staring at him. It was weird, very weird. I couldn't tell if she was watching him eat or pondering longingly about how her sweet little guy was a big boy now, or what. I felt like saying, "Hey, stare all you want, it's not going to make him come home to you." She's currently waiting for dear husband's sister to move back in. She even made my sister-in-law paint her room for when she moves home. All of this in spite of the fact that sister-in-law keeps telling her that she's not moving back into that house. My dear husband and I have been talking seriously about planning to move out of state one day, not just because of mother-in-law, but for many other reasons. Now, we think that if we do ever have children, we should wait until we move away, or at least move away while they are still little. We both know that if we have a child while we still live here, we will never be left alone, and we will be bothered by her daily. I know that since she can't let her kids go, she will totally pounce all over our kids trying to recreate the life she had when her kids were little. She still talks about things that she did with the kids when they were small, as if it were last week. I feel like she thinks that I'm just here for a little while and once I go away, she'll get her baby boy back. That's how she acts with her other kids too, like they're going to come back to her, no matter what. It's getting weirder all the time too. Today, it was a preservation of the kids' bedrooms, complete with baby pictures. Tomorrow, who knows what? Marble statues carved carefully in their likeness? I don't know what to expect. Okay, so in my uneducated, unprofessional opinion, I do think that the mother-in-law is having an issue, and I think it's something called empty nesting, or empty nest syndrome, or something like that, I'm not sure. But I do feel kind of bad for the mother-in-law. I mean, she's not smothering them or anything, right? It doesn't seem like she's hovering them or bugging them or calling them every day or coming to their house uninvited or anything like that. She's just reminiscing of her kids because she's lonely. I think it's sad she never got over her divorce that was 20 years ago and that the only people in her life, were her children, are now leaving and making their own lives, which is normal. And she just isn't taking it very well, and she's putting up these shrines of pictures because it reminds her of a better time. But that's just my opinion. What do you guys think? Alright, well, we've reached once again the end of the video. I hope you guys liked it, and like I usually ask you to, if you did like it, go ahead and click like. If you still haven't subscribed, come on, what are you waiting for? If you like this content, just come and join the community. And don't forget about the subreddit. Okay, having said all that, I'll see you guys on the next video.